30 years.
Now, because I read a lot of stuff, and I like to look online a lot, and because it's one of the things you do when you're bored and free. So basically, I see a lot of questions about racism and don't really get how it could be, because I really can't see from someone who has never seen the concept, because I constantly live within these confines of being black, right? So, most white people have the question of, I won't say most white people, I'll just say people who haven't experienced racism tend to ask or make statements like, well, Black Lives Matter, and then have the rebuttal of, well, all lives matter. Don't say that anymore. That's just stupid. Secondly, the thing about, well, we are all currently free people today, and my parents didn't own slaves, so why do I have to, I guess, try and make anything right today, even though we have no legal supposed ramifications from slavery? That's a flat out stupidest thing that you could possibly say. You need to educate yourselves. Mostly because of the fact that these systemic things that have been put in place are also the same systemic things that give you privilege. And for instance, every white person benefits by the sheer fact of being white financially. Okay? These aren't opinions, these are facts. Every one of the senators in the government is aware of these facts. Every congressperson, everyone in the government normally is an attorney, right? They're very well-educated people. They normally deal in finance. They normally deal in all this stuff. All this stuff is not an argument at all. These are facts. Okay? You owned a slave, you had free labor, you built an empire from it. This empire from it today, now, is the systemic wealth that we are talking about. Okay? This exists. It's here. It's what all of us now have. Like Coca-Cola, for instance, Pepsi, all these old companies, and I don't just mean to use them as an example for anything that they did anything bad today, but these are corporate entities that were built from the very beginning and normally paid off of slavery. The cotton trade was huge. It built, and if you look back at history and see that, for instance, Ford, okay? Ford was not a good company. It seems like a good company now, but the people that built it were horrible people. Okay, they did great things for industry and the line, but we forget that their core values as people is not someone the average American today would sit and want to have dinner with. We forget these things. We act like that these appalling acts that these people did never happened. He had a paper. This is why Trump was talking about this. He was a very anti-Semitic person, Ford in general. Ford's wealth was built from these beginning trades that I'm talking about. Okay, 100 years before that. 150 years before that. These families were the core families that owned slaves. This is why the rebel flag is so big, because these are who was fighting to keep slaves. Lincoln didn't want to free slaves, okay? He knew that the country was going to have a civil war unless he freed slaves, is what Trump was talking about also. Okay, this is amazing to me that the only reason that this stuff flies by is because most of us are ignorant about history. Simple stuff that you can go into any book in this country now that's free and read. Okay, and a lot of times the older ones may have little messed up bits of history. Yeah, that's true, because the winner of history gets to tell his story. It's fine. Okay, this is what it is. But you have to go through all of that to be able to see the truth of it all, and no one does that. We all just read on things on Facebook and assume that everything you see is true. They don't even check dates. Like this is almost insane how, I don't want to say stupid, but ignorant we have become as a society. And it's nothing that is in existence for the sheer fact of laziness. So I say we need to go educate ourselves and learn to read and sometimes think of the other person's perspective, because I tend to think, like, when I tell someone who is white and ignorant of the fact that they're making a current racist statement, even though they're saying they're trying to help you, I mean, most liberals are racist and don't realize that, because racist is contributing to the systemic control of another race, right? I tried to explain it to someone else, and they go in Webster's dictionary like a month ago before they realize what the definition is. And because that definition is there as being racially controlled and not systemic control, they don't know what racism means. Sheer fact is, most black people in this country can't be racist. They can be bigots, yes, which means that they hold a racial view towards someone that is not right. A lot of us do that, okay? But to be racist means that you have to have systemic control, meaning that you are the larger population of the country who's imposing a will that's based on race, right? We aren't the larger population. Therefore, by definition, I cannot be. Is this immoral to do based on race, based on anyone's color? Yes. But learn the base meanings of these words, and we would stop having these conflicts of simple linguistical things and the fact that you don't define a word the same as someone else. A word is, by definition, a word that should be defined by a rule. Okay? It has a standard. I can't say air, and air mean water to you, but water mean purple to him. That's not how language works. Like, racism means racism. It means systemic control of another culture. Bigot is a bigot. It means someone who's being an ass about race, and pretty much we all know what this is. Like Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker had black people in the house, would have you over. It wasn't that he didn't like black people, it was just that he had some very stupid social views that were constructed because of the environment that he was raised in. Did I love Archie Bunker? Yes. Does that mean that he was right or a bad person? No. He actually, if you watch the show, did some pretty heartfelt stuff. But he still was a bigot. He actually was a racist technically because he was right, but he really wasn't. He was more or less a bigot, which is what we all know. But now today, that would be considered a bad show. And where we've become too sensitive on things like that. I don't see how that's possible. Like, this is why I tended to give a member of the Aryan nation a opportunity to at least explain to me what his views were. And had I judged him by the tattoos that he was covered in, and I'm the white man, and I kill niggas, and swastikas all over his arm, like, but he was 50 now. And the man he was then when he first had those tattoos, he wasn't the same man now. The same as the Malcolm X, who we all know and love. As an adult, it wasn't the same man when he was a child. So, everybody, educate yourselves, and you will start to see that all of this is mostly because we simply don't know what words mean, and we tend to think we do and fight for no reason when we're pretty much saying the same thing. We don't realize it, and that's the stupidest fight of all. So with that, I hope that everybody has a good day and does well. Bye.